We will be happy to read your questions and comments on the chat. Please write them at any time and we will get back to you at the end of the session. The next slide, please. We want to start with a little reflection. As we all know, scaling water initiatives to have the necessary impact is a big opportunity and sometimes on all of our minds, and of course, including the Charco Bendito's team. And therefore, as you learn more about this project, Charco Bendito, over the next 40 to 45 minutes, we would like you to think about three things. First, areas would you think the team should be focusing on? For example, projects, governance, financing, communications, strategy, or other large et cetera. Then areas that need to be strengthened or improved based on what you hear during the panel. And then any other thoughts or ideas you have about how this initiative could have bigger impact, because that's the goal. So now we can start with the next slide. We will have Hugh share for the first slides. Now, Hugh, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sophia. Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited to finally bring the story of Charco Bendito to World Water Week. So I'm going to start out and give you some background about the beverage industry or environmental roundtable, or as we call it, BIER. Then I'll give you some high-level background about Charco Bendito. BIER is a technical coalition composed of the 15 largest beverage companies that was formed in 2006 when the sector recognized the need to advance sustainability together. Its first focus area was water stewardship, to define it, to share best practices around it, to benchmark internal efficiencies, and develop guidance and tools for its member. Since that time, BIER has taken on a range of important sustainability topics. The organization's practical tools and guidance are publicly available for others to use, including the True Cost of Water Toolkit, which helps facilities justify water conservation and reuse projects by taking into account the other associated costs with water use. That includes heating, cooling, and treatment. The organization also contributes to the many global water, climate, and packaging standards by working with a variety of leading organizations. This graphic shows BIER's water stewardship journey going back to 2006. You can see the evolution from the definition of water stewardship to accounting, to considering water in context, to circularity and replenish, and to the Charco Bendito joint collaboration. So over its history, BIER has taken relevant water stewardship issues and developed tools for its members and others. Regarding Charco Bendito, the members felt strongly that where they were operating together in areas of high water risk, they should at least sit down together and explore a potential collaboration that would begin addressing local and regional water issues. I've talked with so many companies and NGOs over the last several years, and there is strong consensus that we must start working together, that working independently, our actions are not going to achieve the impacts we need to solve our greatest water challenges. So let's talk about why we chose this region and this basin, and why did we start Charco Bendito at this time. You know, we had been talking with the BIER organization about an on-the-ground collaboration for several years, and we started to research the possibility in 2018. After the concept was approved by the BIER's global leadership team, we started looking at water-stressed areas that had a high concentration of members, which led us to consider Mexico, India, California in the US, and South Africa. We chose this area of Mexico mainly based on the number of members and the current and projected water risk. And we knew from talking with the global members that their local teams were supportive and had the capacity for a collective action, which is really important. The Lerma-Santiago Basin provides water for 8 of Mexico's most populated cities, including Guadalajara and Mexico City. And so the region is obviously important to the country's economy. And it's no surprise that the water challenges and the root causes in the Lerma Santiago are similar to what we see in other areas across the globe. Groundwater being over-abstracted and poor surface water quality, often due to land use changes, poor policies, and agricultural impacts. Maciel will give you more details on this in a moment. It's also extremely important to note that the main objective was simply to demonstrate that a group of competitors could work together on a basin-level initiative. We had hoped, whatever we built, we had hoped that it would be practical yet robust and could be repeated in other water-stressed areas. And to be completely transparent, we had very high hopes for this initiative, but we didn't know exactly how things would go. So reflecting on the past few years, as someone who was involved in this initiative from its beginning, I think it's been successful because the global and local members were committed to learning how to work together and doing the hard work at the basin level. They have a highly engaged local team composed of company representatives, a local technical expert, and a local communication expert who understands the stakeholders and their needs. You can see a very simple version of the process we use, which we'll make available to anyone who's interested. There was a natural evolution from BIER corporate leadership and facilitation to local leadership and facilitation. We quickly transitioned from English to Spanish, from members who don't live in the basin to members who do, from people who don't know the stakeholders to meet people who might live close to them. The result was an effective team that governs itself and can make quick decisions on most matters. The local aspect also resulted in a team that was and still is very sensitive to the cultural and socioeconomic needs of the local community. And as you'll see in a moment, this initiative has gone well beyond water quantity and quality. So, from a very high level, I'm going to end my comments with some of the big things that we learned. I've used the word local several times so far, and you see it again here. We all know that water is local, and Charco Bendito reminds us of how important this is. We knew from our very first workshop, after listening to the passions of local members, that we had something special. I think half the battle sometimes is getting people to sit together and listen and explore the possibilities. We had a few members step up and lead. For example, some very simple things like facilitating monthly meetings, taking notes, tracking action items, to some more complex things like working with their legal department to develop a simple agreement from a company template and developing guidelines for how the group would work together. In essence, this local group of companies convened and owned Charco Bendito, financing and governing themselves through the process I showed on the previous slide. We've demonstrated that this model of collaboration is valid and can yield quick and efficient results, and are exploring ways to make it even more efficient for a potential new BIER water collaboration. What started as a quick win project was transformed into a multi-year, multi-dimensional initiative because of the local team's enthusiasm. So with that, I'll end my comments and turn it over to Maciel and Ana Fernanda to give you details about Charco Bendito.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Hugh, and good day, everyone. My name is Maciel Escona from ABMBEF, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the operational side of the project itself. So as you know, let's say that basically when we start a project, the first thing that we need to do is start thinking as which is the baseline, what do we want to solve, and which is the value added that we want to bring to the space we're working with. That's why we started with these pillars, which are the problems that we identified within the communities and within the ecosystem that we wanted to be solved. Of course, we had the ecosystemical impact, which is degradation and biodiversity loss, but also ecological connectivity, unsustainable use of water resources, which affected water access, drought seasons, wildfires, which were other indirect impacts as well, runoff, infiltration to the aquifer, which was minimum because the soil didn't have the capacity to increase its infiltration. And all of these problems relied on an annual water deficit, which is based on the basin that we're currently doing the project with, which is the Cajititlan aquifer, that had a deficit of minus 16 million cubic meters. So that was all of these issues were the big problems that we were trying to solve when we started projecting the project itself. Next, please. So one thing that we knew and that was clear for us is that there was some aspects that we need to take under consideration when we're doing the project and forming its planning itself. First, all of our companies, when we started, were thinking about how we could implement the project using nature-based solutions that could impact positively the micro watershed itself. This started as a pilot because we wanted to first test if it was possible for all of our companies to actually start working together in a same project at the same space. So then, of course, we knew that we wanted many companies joining forces. We didn't start all together. Actually, as you can see, in order, we went one by one, then we completed the group, and now is. But it was something that we kept in mind since the beginning, like how do we do this sustainable for all of the companies that want to be part of the project? Also, we knew which were the reasons as to why we selected this area and this specific project, which were directly related with the problems that I showed before. And of course, we kept in mind as well that the project needed and was going to be operated by Red Bioterra, which is our local implementator, because as you all know, we cannot do this kind of projects ourselves because we need experts in field that will have the capacity to implement. Next. So as I said before, this was a whole journey that took years, and that it continues to take years to get to the place we want to be and to our goals. The investment companies started one by one, and it was a full convincement and governance issue, and let's say that capacity and activities that we had to do to understand how we could all work together, how we could start aligning the project with each of our independent companies' goals until what we are today. Just this year, we were happy to announce that Nestle was our latest new member in the project, and hopefully we can get many more in the future to come. On the operational side, just like Hugh said, BIER is, let's say, the PMO manager of the project since it started, with Red Bioterra as local implementator, and we have other also communicators such as Pardo and Antea Group, which is the umbrella. And of course, on the measuring and monitoring side, we have our actors that are helping us verify that the information that we're currently doing theoretically has its knowledge behind, which are Water Plan, and in this case, Libnotech is also helping on the monitoring. Next, please. Perfect. So Hugh already mentioned that Guadalajara was a good place, because it was a location in which most of our companies were. But actually, it's also a very good place because, as I said before, it had a deficit of minus 16.2 million cubic meters, which is a really big problem to be solved. And actually, it had all the area and capacity for nature-based solutions to be implemented, mostly due to its size, but because, as you can see on the picture, there are many other lakes and water courses that are within the area that can help us actually get the tools that we needed for the project to be implemented in regards to reforestation, but other factors as well. Next, please. Perfect. So Charco Bendito is working with many pillars at the same time. So this is kind of our base pillars, which are availability, quality, and access. When we talk about availability, we're talking about replenishment and infiltration through nature-based solutions, as I said before. But it's mostly not only reforestation, but also how do we proactively control invasive flora, how do we support infrastructure, and also do maintenance and fire control, which is a really big issue in the area. All of this while measuring biodiversity. We also have a quality impact because when we made the baseline, we identified that quality might be an issue that we wanted to keep under control, which is why we're currently continuously doing a diagnosis of water quality of the lagoon. And of course, access, because WASH is part of our baselines when doing an analysis of the community, and we want to actually improve the accessibility to drinking water and sanitation to the community of San Lucas Evangelista, which is where the project is based on. Next. So something really interesting as well about Charco Bendito, and this is kind of the favorite part of the project for me, is the entrepreneurship side. Because besides the pillars that we saw before, entrepreneurship, it's kind of a interactive pillar, extra pillar that we also have within several projects that are being implemented at the same time, because we not only want to work on the ecosystemic, but also on the social aspects of the community and how do we proactively develop them so that they can get the tools that they need to grow. So one of those examples, and you're going to see about that more in the next video, it's Women of Honey, which is a productive project in which we have a current production of 850 kilos of honey, which is a really good amount since it started, and it's growing the culture of beekeeping for children and for your adults as well. We have other projects such as the nursery, which is also bringing jobs to the community, entrepreneurship training for women, local employment due to brigades that are part of the program and that are currently doing the control of the fires, and a really new project that is a living pharmacy, because we want to show the community how they can do sustainable botanical service for the same community in which they are. And that way they can get access to many of the tools and many of the, services that they usually need to be part of the community happily. Next. And of course, all of this brought great results, right? So our progress, it's not only the hectares that we have reforested, but also more than 47,000 streets planted. The community currently has 1,000 people proactively currently living there, and almost 700 already have access to fresh water, which is a really great goal. More than 10,000 tons of CO2 storage, but also the projects that I told about, the social projects being implemented, and all the indirect people that were positively impacted by the community. So these results are in where we are right now. And of course, we're always looking forward to continue with the progress. The project, it has date until 2025 plus 3 years of maintenance. So this does not end here. And we're also looking forward to increase the results. On the next slide, you will see a quick video on how the project continues. And then I'm going to give the word to Ana Fernanda. Thank you.
Bueno, este proyecto que se denominó Charco Bendito lleva el compromiso de la comunidad, de la reforestación, de la captación de agua, el cambio social de la comunidad.
La apicultura para nosotros, que es muy importante. Mujeres de Miel, una de las principales razones por las que empezamos, obviamente la abeja, como todos sabemos, es muy importante para el ambiente. Entonces, en los árboles que estamos plantando, Charco Bendito y las abejas pues van junto con pegado. Bueno, pensando a futuro, lo que yo esperaría, ver que el trabajo que estamos realizando, que nos está costando muchísimo, en muchísimos sentidos, no nada más físico y todo, siga y que la gente siga teniendo sus beneficios de lo que es todo esto. Por ejemplo, tenía mucho que no veía un venado con su cría. Ya he visto 2 mamás con bebé, ¿verdad? Entonces eso es lo mejor que puede pasar.
Bueno, el beneficio y los cambios que hemos tenido es de que antes teníamos que comprar el agua o estar vigilando las pipas o inclusive pues comprar pipas. Y ahora pues ya con este proyecto y que se nos benefició con el agua potable, pues obviamente pues la tranquilidad, pues el acceso al agua, los beneficios para la comunidad que yo he visto pues es de que para empezar ya no nos andamos peleando por el agua, ya tenemos una tranquilidad del hecho de saber que nos está llegando nuestra agua potable.
Pues mi sueño es que mis hijos crezcan y ahora sí comunicarles, decirles todo lo que hice, que los arbolitos que plantamos que sigan creciendo.
Mi sueño es que un día veamos el fruto de lo que se está haciendo allá arriba, que esa parte del cerro la veamos ya con árboles grandes y ver que ahí está el empeño y la esperanza de todos nosotros aquí en el pueblo.
El sembrar los árboles, los primeros que se iniciaron, la primera etapa, ¿no? Algo así se llama, esos árboles ya dan sombra, esos árboles ya nos están pagando lo que hicimos por ellos. Ver que cambie el medio ambiente, volver a ver ese cerro. De niño lo vi y lo disfruté. Ojalá y pudiéramos revertirlo, volverlo a que tenga vida, en donde se podía correr, se podía divertir, que era maravilloso. Era el recreo de nosotros como niños, corretear todo este río.
Thank you, Maciel. And I have to say, I always get really emotional about this video because it really takes us on what we have built on that community. So let me just walk you through on what happens behind the scenes. Maciel, you shared us about the initiative in the macro level. Maciel shared about what the actually activities and what we deploy, but what happens behind the scenes? So very important, we have our implementing partner in the ground, Red Bioterra. We also have Bardo Communications to support us on a way to relate and share information about the project, and a monitoring partner, Limotec. As Maciel already mentioned, we have Red Bioterra, Antea Group, and the beverage industry in the administration part. But something that's really key is how all of the companies are involved in this project, and the governance, and how this structure has supported us to deploy all of the activities. So we have 5 pillars for our project: government and partnerships, that we see how we're gonna, the rules of the game, let's call it that way, the rules of Charco Bendito, and how each company it contributes to this partnership. Monitoring and measuring, that's very important. That's led by ABI. New members, where Diageo, myself, and ABI are looking for you who are behind the scenes, scouting for more information about Charco Bendito and how to contribute to this project. Finance and treasury, very important to know how all of the resources are deployed for the development of activities. And as I already mentioned, communication with a partnership of other companies. Next slide, please. So something that's very important is how every stakeholder is involved. I want to start for those that are the heart and the soul of this project. So the local community, as you just saw in the video, is key in order to deploy all of the activities. They are part, we're engaged with them, they're part of the project, and they have made it part of their lives. I want to say that I'm wearing myself a necklace which was made by Charco Bendito in there, and I have them, all of them, with me here, representing in this fabulous presentation. The second part is the ejido. The ejido is a figure in Mexico for land tenure that is about community. So we have the authorization from the ejidatarios, we call the people who are part of the ejido, to intervene and involve, and we have involved them in the process of the reforestation of land. Very important to have socializing this project with local, state, and federal authorities. So on the local side, we have the Municipality of Tlajomulco in the state of Jalisco. That's where the ejido is located. They know about the project, and they have supported us with volunteering when we unfortunately faced a fire, with firefighting, and of course on water irrigation. On the second layer, we have the government, state government of Jalisco. We have the Ministry of Agriculture, because they have some supports around machinery that will support this project, and SEMADER, the Ministry of Environment of the state of Jalisco. Our program of Charco Bendito builds upon the public policy restoration they have in place in the state. And last but not least, in the federal government, the National Forestry Commission, where we receive technical advice for the reforestation. Next slide, please. On the communication strategy, we play in different arenas. We have, through our BIER partner on going globally, with our private partners, we made joint activities. The last we had was with Mars to push and to show other companies and go and take out the message about Charco Bendito. Locally, we have our social media channels. At the end of the presentation, we will see them. I'll encourage you to follow us and to see all of the activities that we do in Charco Bendito. And with a partnership of Bardo Communication Agency, they are the ones in charge of monitoring and also building all the look and feel of this project. Next slide, please. So what's next to us? We want to grow and we want to go big. Right now, we're doing an assessment with a third party in order to see what are the areas that we want to grow, either new activities, new incentives, or really grow the area that we're working on. This is something that's conducted with a third party, and it's been pushed a lot by Diageo and ABI to really scale up this, and all of the other members to really scale up this initiative. It's important for everyone to know that the aim that we were looking for is that this model is used as an example to be replicated in other areas, not only of Mexico, but on the world around, in places that are facing water stress, as Maciel mentioned. And of course, what we aim is that Charco Bendito really builds upon and to get into a really big collective action. So I encourage you once again to join us in this fantastic project. I will now give the floor to Alex. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Maciel, and thank you, Ana Fernanda, for that. It's extremely encouraging and heartwarming to see and hear this project, Charco Bendito. It's great to hear some of the testimony that we saw in the video. What we've heard is, in my opinion, and also I know is the opinion of global and local members of BIER and BIER itself, to be an extremely compelling collaboration between competitors. It was designed and meant to be a collaboration in a pre-competitive space. We all compete in the market, but this is a space in which we have identified an opportunity and a need to work together to create positive change in the watershed for the community and ultimately supporting our respective water security. It started with a water lens. We heard availability, we heard quality, access, but there's just so much more to this project, which I'm so proud of and delighted to be sharing, to be part of this group sharing with all of you. Yes, water, but also we heard the women of honey. We heard the testimony that because of some of this work, we're seeing the reemergence of the deer and the calf. That's incredible. With the bees comes biodiversity, additional areas, and just last month, I had the real pleasure in Charco Bendito and taking a tour around and just seeing the work that has been done and the very positive results that we're seeing is just incredible. But we also heard this has been a journey. It has started off as a pilot, and we are seeing good results, but this is certainly not finished. It's a very complex area. It's a very complex project. And actually, that's why we have designed and looked at the project to address multiple different areas, many of which actually feature on this BIER 6 principles of world-class water stewardship for the beverage sector. You'll see key words here such as act, engage, and influence. So taking actions, working with the watershed, engaging community and embarking on collective action, and trying to have that influence and creating the conditions that will enable organizations like ourselves, but also others, to actually have more impact and supporting projects like this. Now, while good, we want more. And if we go to the next slide, we'll see how our project, Charco Bendito, looks at addressing key areas. This is WWF's water stewardship ladder. Now, these are all great. These are all areas of impact that we would like to see. But what's key to this is actually these areas of impact actually get harder and harder. You know, steps 1 and 2 and 3, as we progress along this ladder, things get tougher. In terms of how we address this, how Charco Bendito can actually support and have the impact across these different areas. And I think what the key message here is, we're not done yet. We are seeing good results, but we do want to see increased partnerships, people coming in to work with us, as Ana Fernanda has also just mentioned. Now, the good news, and if we go on to the next slide, there is some really great work that is already being done. There's good work here in Charco Bendito, but there's also a number of other projects and initiatives that are taking place that with a diverse group of people to give collective action the boost. And we're learning from all of this. But what we need to do is learn, share, exchange, and engage. And a lot of great work on collective action that's taking place now. For those of us here in Stockholm, there's a lot of activity on unpacking collective action. What have we learned? How do we take it forward in the coming years to actually make projects like Charco Bendito and others reach that scale and speed that we need? I think the first line here, scale, scope, speed, that's key. I think many of us who work in this space these are words that we often use. These are words that we know we need to achieve and reach if we are to solve some of these big sustainability and governance challenges. This is extremely important. And this, as Bastiel and Ana Fernanda have mentioned, is an area of coming next for Charco Bendito. The local team is in process of scaling and exploring different options for collective action. Not only doing more of what has been proven to be good areas of work, so let's do more of that, yes, but also exploring other areas that could potentially have additive and complementary benefits and results and impact. So looking at areas of perhaps regenerative agriculture, other areas that we can do. And so as we challenge ourselves, we also have to think about, how do we do things better? How do we do things bigger? How do we do things faster? And perhaps just a couple comments just on scaling and scope. Doing more of what we have demonstrated, but looking at other areas. And this is one area in which we hope to draw in more partners. Hopefully those of you online, even if the current work, maybe doesn't resonate as much yet, there's scope to grow. There's room to grow, and through that we can reach scale. Speed, I think one key thing that we have seen is in this pre-competitive collaboration of our companies is the number of us and working together as a group to reach the speed and the impact that we need. I think there's also a need to rethink, but also adapt, evolve. Not throw everything out the window, but build on our lessons learned and adapt. How can we do things faster? Maybe there's a governance structure that actually helps us to move more quickly. Maybe it doesn't have to involve every single person, but under the rubric of Charco Bendito, enables certain groups of companies to move quickly into certain areas that maybe not necessarily of interest to everyone, but still supports the overarching goals and ambition and impact aspirations of Charco Bendito. But all of this, what this requires is collaboration. It requires action now, and the exchange, the sharing, and the sort of communication across all of us to do more. My plea here, join us either in Charco Bendito or whatever is appropriate for your organization. But a key message is there's lots out there to build on. Charco Bendito is one. There's other initiatives, and it's okay. Nothing has to be perfect, but get involved. Start simple, expand, as we did with Charco Bendito. But the key is to get involved. And I think that is one of the perhaps key messages to impart here. We would love for our partners to do more with Charco Bendito. Please do look at that QR code, scan that, learn more about it, reach out to any of us, and we would love to see more participation here. With that, I can only say thank you to the great local team from at least my perspective as a global original partner of Charco Bendito and BIER, and I'll turn it back over to Sophia to help us with the questions and answer.
Thanks again, Alex. And also thanks to Hugh, Maciel, and Fernanda for sharing so many details of the Charco Bendito's projects. We hope the audience is reflecting now on how this kind of initiative can be replicated and scaled, and that you feel motivated to participate. I mean, who didn't feel a little emotional hearing Don Margarito at the end of the video sharing how the people in the community really believe they can have the river alive again. So please reflect back on the beginning of the presentation when I ask you to think about how the project might be scaled or have a greater impact, and share with us your thoughts about the areas that the team should be focusing on: are projects, governance, financing, communication. What areas that need to be strengthened or improved based on what you heard, and any other thoughts or idea that you have about this initiative and how it could have a bigger impact. Surely you must have some questions. I'm seeing now some on the chat. Please keep this dialogue forward. As I'm checking, I can see first some people that are part of the Charco Bendito project. They are happy to share that they are proud to be part of this collaboration and working with other devoted people. Thanks, Hector, Lourdes, Isha, and many others for your comments on the chat. And maybe we can start with the first question that was written from Yvonne Lier. Thanks, Yvonne, for your question. I think this might be for Maciel or Ana Fernanda. Whoever who wants to jump in, please feel free. The question is, what was or is the biggest challenge for the private sector, the first, and then also the challenge for the communities? Who wants to jump in, Maciel or Ana?
Yeah, if you want to, I can jump in, and then Ana Fer can complement me for sure. Thank you so much for Sophia, and thank you everyone for joining. I could say that one of the challenges that we have on the private company sector is mainly like working on this internal governance where everyone has the same level of participation, and when we all need to get together and take decisions, that's like the hardest part, right? Because I was just hearing at a panel yesterday that when everything is going good, everything's perfect, but by the time you have to choose a hard decision, and when we have to take a hard decision, that's where everyone starts seeing how the project actually works, right? So I can say that we are usually get to having many implementators working locally and doing the projects, while we as private sector usually do the project management, while Charco Bendito is giving us the opportunity to actually work together and get our hands dirty and go into field and doing this collaborative work in which we all have a role. And like Hugh said in the beginning of the presentation, we all have the chance to actually take notes or to be in the Zoom meeting and to participate. And this is a teamwork, right? So that's one of the challenges that we had at the very beginning, and that I think we're handling really well. I don't know, Ana Fer, if you would like to complement.
Thanks, Maciel. I totally agree with you. That's one of the challenges that we face in terms of the private sector. But in terms of the community, I think a key thing for us was that we have our implemented partner, Red Bioterra, who has already been working with the community. So for us, pushing the engagement with them was quite significant and quite easily. We know we took into consideration all of the things that the community, and most importantly, we hear them on what's their needs and what their support and what they're looking for.
I want to step in and add something very quickly, just from the high perspective. I think one of the challenges from the global members was just getting started. Like, how do you start something like this? And I think if you look at the process timeline that I showed, that the first few steps took a long time, getting the members aligned. Where are we going to work? Evaluating risk and basins. But once we got the local members to sit together in the room, things happened really quickly. So from a high level, it's just how do you get started to do something like this as companies and as competitors?
Thank you, Hugh. And this is linked also to the next question that I think you're the best to answer. This is from Mauricio Chavarria. He asks, do you have plans to export this incredible project to other watersheds? Maybe Anna Fair talked a little about this, but since you already shared with us, Hugh, that the difficult part is already done, what should be the next step to work on the other watersheds?
So the beverage industry environmental roundtable is currently evaluating another location. And so hopefully we can make a decision on that soon. But this model is available for others to use. So it's like BIER shares all its tools and guidance documents with the world. So this is also available. And we think that this model fits with other frameworks. And the slide that Alex showed mentioned some of those. So for example, Alliance for Water Stewardship, which many companies are members of. Many companies participate with the Nature Conservancy in water funds, or they participate in World Wildlife Fund projects. We think that our model can fit with those and complement them, especially to get a group of actors. It doesn't always have to be companies, but anyone who's interested in improving conditions in a basin. We think it's a good model to get people to sit together at the same table and do something quickly, and then build momentum to do more difficult things and scale, which is where Charco Bendito is right now. We're at the scaling phase.
Thank you, Hugh. Partnership for the goals. This is one example of that SDG. I have another question from Natalie Dorfliger. I think maybe for Hugh or Maciel, you let me know. Natalie says, great to see all of these positive benefits on entrepreneurship projects of the reforestation with engagement of local communities. How will these changes initiated by the project keep on at the end of the project?
If you'd like to, Hugh, I could just start with the answer to that question. Thank you so much, Sophia, for reading the question. That's a great challenge that we have. It's a huge challenge, and that's a great question, because currently that's the sustainability. It's something that we keep on hearing in each of the conversations that we're having within World Water Week, and it's how do we actually do for projects to continue without our investments, let's say, without our continuous investments, or how do we make the community to feel owned and to feel owner of their own project, so that we don't need to be their companions forever. And I can say that our initiative or our dynamic would be more of trying to give them the investment that they need to jumpstart the project, so that they can later start and give them the tools as well. Not only the investment, but also the tools and the knowledge and the education and the trainings that they need to know how their operation should work. That way they can start owning their own benefits and their own revenues that they can go ahead and reinvest in the same projects, and they can get their entrepreneurships to grow, and they could get their micro companies to actually become more formal and to start bringing more people into the initiatives and to start growing them. So hopefully there will be a time in which we don't need to be there, in which we can just get out of the process and see how it evolves by itself, because we put that seed that the project needed to grow, but then it can start moving by itself. So hopefully that's the end, let's say, of the moment in which we can say that we actually were able to make a sustainable impact in field, mainly for these processes such as Women of Honey, the Living Pharmacy, that are commercial processes, right? Where we don't actually need to be invested permanently, but we're expecting for the project to receive its own revenues and then continue by itself.
If I may, just Well, just
Please.
one sentence. I used to tell people in my corporate job that if I did a good job integrating sustainability across my company, across its functions, marketing, procurement, communications, sales, that I'd work myself out of a job. And that would be the best scenario, because others would own sustainability. I think what Maciel just said is by bringing the community in, by making them involved in the initiatives, it has a much better chance of being sustainable for the long term.
And if I
Thanks,
may
Hugh.
add, I think something that's really key is that the community knows that there's a beginning and at the end of the project. So in their minds is that they're working for the project, but they do know that they have to fly and do it by themselves. So they are really into it and developing skills in order to continue what we've been doing with them.
Sophia, I was just going to add very quickly, I couldn't agree more with my colleagues here in terms of all of the aspects that they've just addressed on this particular question. I think my addition might be, while we might work ourselves ideally out of an active role, let's say, I think our role can change. I think our role could then shift to perhaps telling the stories and telling the story of Charco Bendito, how this work supports entrepreneurship, how it creates jobs, how it supports livelihoods, and shine a spotlight on what this work can do to help these entrepreneurs continue to thrive, but also to, let's say, have even more of these entrepreneurs take root, not only within Charco Bendito, but other projects as well.
Thank you, Alex. I like the storyteller's role also. It's very important for the next steps. And now, thank you again, Natalie Dorfliger, for your question, because everyone wanted to jump in and share a little bit of that. Now we have Adriana Trejo's question. She has 3 questions. I think maybe Hugh is the one to respond, but let's see who wants to jump in and add something. Adriana is asking, first, what was the financing model used to develop this project? And then a second question that is, what was the timeline of the project, and at which stage are you now? Well, it was already answered, but if you want to add another point. The third one is, what is the communication strategy you use to match the stakeholders' interest? And then she added last one, that it's about what is the next for the community and stakeholders on the project or after the project, but it is already answered. So maybe we can start with the financing model used. Go ahead, Hugh, or whoever wants to respond.
Marcel, you may have to help me here, but originally we started with 3 or 4 members, and it was just members putting in a very small amount of money just to get the project initiated and to explore the possibility. As more members came in, they contributed more dollars. And we're at the point now where that has increased significantly. And so, Maciel, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, I can say that. So as you know, this project has direct benefits, right? Just like what we spoke before within the presentation, we were talking about progress. So the financial model that we chose was that first, the administrative company of the funds would be Red Bioterra, which is the local implementator, as I said, because that way we could have a neutral entity that could be in charge of allocating the funds to the needs that needed to be in field. So that was a really important part. And also, just like you said, we started with initial investments, right? Because we needed the project to start flowing. But after we got to a point in which there were 10 companies currently working on the project, it got more sustainable to just do an equivalent division of which were the needs that the project needed to start working and the financial needs. And that way the benefits could be also within the project distributed equally within the companies, right? So that's a really great initiative to help everyone to have clear calculations, right, of their goals and of their financial benefits. So that would be the answer.
Thank you, Hugh and Maciel. I don't know if someone wants to add a little about the other questions.
The timeline, there was a graphic there, but essentially think of it as less than 2 years before implementation. Actually, that's actually quite a bit shorter because the team wanted to actually implement before they launched. They wanted to have good things to talk about before they did a formal launch. So it's a little bit less than that. And where we're at now is a scaling phase. So the team is currently evaluating the best way to take this to scale to have a much bigger impact.
Thanks again, Hugh. We have many questions on the chat. I will read the next one. We have 6 more minutes, okay? Fernanda Plasencia is asking, maybe I think this for Maciel or Ana, let's see. What have been the gains in the community in the way they coexist and strengthen themselves?
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sophia. So I'll go ahead and start answering, and maybe Anna, you can compliment me as well. So I can say that the question is long-standing. I'm sorry, can you say the question again? I think I got lost between the...
No, it's okay, Maciel, I can repeat. What have been the gains, specific gains in the community? Because they coexist and they strengthen their own capacity. So what is the other specific gains?
Thank you. Thank you so much. So I have a great example for that one. On the last time we had a visit to Charco Bendito, the team was there. I was able to be there with Ana Fer and with Alex again. A sir from the community was telling us about the water access pillar specifically. And he told us that they were able to build a governance process for water access in a way that they could all get water at the time and schedule that they needed the water to, which is really impressive because you wouldn't know that something that we might see as small as distributing water to a small amount of people within the community could help them actually increase their social development within the community and for them to be able to organize so that they could get the water in the moment that they needed to, when they needed to. And we even ask, like, doesn't that make you guys have any kind of trouble internally? How do you work? How do you do it? Don't you take each other's water? But apparently everything's great. They literally explained that they have their schedules that they signed, and like they even assigned a person in charge of verifying that the water is being distributed the way it needs to, and they did that by themselves. So this is a really great example on communication and how they have been able to strengthen themselves and to have this integrity and this 360 knowledge of what's happening within the community that they didn't used to have. Also, I can proudly say that Charco Bendito, specifically San Lucas Evangelistas community, is one of the few communities that we can say that fully knows the project and fully understands the benefits that the project is giving to them, mostly because of the brigades and the employment that the project is giving. They feel owners and they feel in charge of representing the project and even of taking care of the environment they're in, because they know that what they're doing is actually bringing a positive aspect. Another example is also on the biodiversity side. They have been able to see new species that they didn't even see before. As you saw in the video, there were deers. So when they actually see animals and when they're able to visibly know the changes that the project is giving to them and to their community, they feel more proud and they feel owned and they communicate better. So those are really good benefits worth saying.
And additionally, I want to say that what I've seen in the visit that Marcel was mentioning is that the empowerment that the community has is just amazing. How they've been, this project has been able to really impact economically, socially, and in their lives at the end. I was really impressed about the fact that one of a woman from the community was mentioning that now they have a chance to give a bath every day to the children. So that's really something that it's a life-changing for everyone.
Thank you, Ana Fer and Maciel. We have 2 more questions and only 2 minutes, so I will read them both at the same time. The first one says, Leonid Hinojosa, could you expand on how did the company and communities build trust? what strategies were given that there is a long-standing mistrust amongst all sorts of stakeholders? That is the first one. And then Valeria Lobaton, this is the last question, asked, has the project considered the integration of agriculture on livestock activities for improving the watershed conditions? Who wants to jump in a really short executive answer, please?
I will jump in for the second question. As we mentioned, in our ambition to have more activities, we're exploring about agriculture practices and livestock. So that's something that we're scouting and see how it can best fit into the project.
And I would like to just really quickly jump in on the first question, which is the trust thing. And for that one, I would like to personally thank Hector from the Red Bioterra team, because I think that the key factor here was being presence, being there so that the community trusts you. And when there's any trouble, they look for you because they see you as one of the figures that can help them do the strategies and go together for solutions for the community. So that's a great aspect as well.
Thanks, Ana Fernanda and Maciel, for these last answers. We have now to end this session. This was Charco Bendito's BIERs collaboration initiative at World Water Week. We hope you found it as informative and also as inspiring as the project team does. To get involved or learn more, please contact Daniel Pierce, the Executive Director of BIER. You have the contact on the slide. We know this is a good start, but there is still so much more to do. So let's move forward and collaborate. Have a good week.